games he picked up during the Steam Christmas sale. The art style and soundtrack stood out to him, so he bought it. The porn was pretty good, too. He picked Philiac, considering she was a strong and a viable character. How wrong he was. Unbeknownst to his character viability complex that would manifest only much later, he played strangers online, getting his metaphorical anus pounded by people playing Peacock. He figured also that this character would surely become beatable as he got better at the game. Again, another mental pitfall that he would career towards, steadily, obliviously. Over time, he added other players whom he made friends with. He discussed the game with them, improved and improved further still when he bought himself an arcade stick. His free time, which was all of his time, became progressively more dedicated to Skullgirls as he delved deeper and deeper into the complexities and psychological aspects of the game. He learned about Revo, or Revo, arguably, an upcoming event at the end of the year where he could enter Skullgirls for glory and riches. He also learned a player by the name of McPeanuts was entering the tournament. His distaste for a few select characters took greater precedence in his mind as time went on. Regardless, his will kept on and continued to play and partake in what would eventually be the community he would lead to some extent. Let us fast forward half a year to the time period of early July. The summer shone upon the town of Limoges. One of the walkers overheard some noise coming from an apartment window. Through that window, two men sitting on a sofa could be seen. The room was filled with smoke, and both men had multiple cigarettes in their mouths. There was one man collapsed on the floor, and another man sitting in the corner with a laptop. One of the men playing began to show signs of frustration. He had black hair and wore a hoodie. The man spoke. Merde. Oh, right, shit.
Is this me?
Oh, yeah, that's you.
Merde.
A few seconds passed. The man shouted.
Putain.
He began thrashing his arcade stick with greater ferocity.
Gregor Samson? It's not something I would say.
Shut up. A disappointed sigh followed. The other man did a 5-meter peacock combo on him as a punish. That's not very realistic. Nobody would punish that moment. The game ended. The other man looked at him tiredly.
That's John. Who's John?
Who's
John?
I mean, I don't know, I can do this. Vincent, you've got to stop doing that. You know Gregor doesn't work against Peacock.
I know, John. I'm just sick of this stupid matchup.
Vincent said, deflated. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. 3 of the men looked at each other. The 4th still collapsed on the floor. They weren't expecting any visitors. The door creaked open slightly and smoke seeped out. Vincent peered through, half of his face visible.
Oui?
A delivery man handed him the brown envelope and left. Vincent closed the door and looked at the envelope. The front read, "To ATH from some guy." There was a smiley face. All right. There was a smiley face with a very pointy nose. He opened it and looked at the contents. His expression turned from down-tempo to jubilant, eyes wide.
Oh, I don't know who sent me this, but you must have excellent taste in Japanese cartoon pornography.
He hugged the pornography tightly, smiling happily. Vincent, what are you doing? We're supposed to be training. A frustrated voice came from behind him. Vincent turned around and looked at the other man. He had blonde, curly hair and was smoking 5 cigarettes at once.
John, look at this.
Vincent showed John the raunchy smut.
Look, that's... No, wait.
Wait, all right. Look, that's great, but we need to keep playing. You're never going to beat McPeanuts at this rate. Maybe you'll take a game or 2 with your solophilia if it comes to that. Come on. John took his Vincent back to the sofa, arm on his shoulder. They both sat down.
Oh my
Did you go
God.
down? Did you go up?
No,
Where?
down.
All
Yeah.
right, down. They both sat down. Vincent put his head in his hand. He heard the moans of an anime girl on the other side of the room. There was a man sitting on the floor, laptop on his knees, his face focused on the screen. Vincent looked at him. The moans were coming from the laptop. The moans got more and more frequent, and finally what seemed to be climax came through the laptop speakers. The face behind the laptop was unchanged, but the eyes on it met Vincent's. You'll never be my peanuts. You can't even deflect worth a shit. Who's saying that, by the way?
I don't know. Mojo?
I guess. The
Where's
face
this guy?
slowly turned smug. Time to pop some Huneys. The man redirected his focus to the laptop, tapping the keys. Is this supposed to be Dragnos or something?
I don't know. What is he doing at my place?
Wait. Let me put on
Dragonos voice.
Dragnos voice. That's it's like a mix of British and French. Yeah, actually, I'm not gonna try. It's too perfect. I can't imitate that. The moaning resumed shortly after. Vincent sighed. He wanted to cry. He had tried so hard to beat Sanji online, but it wasn't enough. For the last few months, he had been playing Sanji in first to 50 sets. Every set made possible by bribing him with the promise of kebab. By now, Vincent owned Sanji 492 kebabs, but hadn't made enough progress to feel confident about beating Peanuts at Revo. A single tear ran down Vincent's face. He quickly wiped it away. He noticed the man on the floor was looking at him. There is way, the man on the floor said. Man who beat him in Forest of Sweden. He went unconscious again. John looked uneasy. Look, Vincent, I didn't think it would come to this, but I think we're at that point. John exhaled slowly. He looked at Vincent. Is this
John.
all right?
Steve, I
Mo-
think.
Mojo is right. There is a way to beat McPeanuts. He was beaten at Revo 2016. Oh, is this in the future?
Wait, what?
I guess so.
Oh yeah, so the man is you.
So this is
apparently.
in. All right, this
Yes,
is in the future.
okay. No, it's like some kind of alternative thingy timeline. I don't know.
This is so confusing. All right, he was beaten at Revo 2016. They say the man who beat him now lives in the Scandinavian woods, secluded from all else with working Wi-Fi. John finished his cigarettes in one long drag, blowing smoke upwards. He looked unsure for a second, but then got up, picked up his arcade stick, and smashed a hole in the wall.
What the fuck?
Vincent exclaimed. John put his arm in the hole and took out a roll of euros that he had stashed for dire situations. He shook the dust off it, blowing off the excess. He walked back to Vincent and offered it to him. You're going to need this. Vincent looked up at John, to which John returned an expression of reassurance. Don't worry, mate. They're all over the house. He lit another cigarette, instantly finished it in one drag, and then started chewing on the remainder. Vincent looked at the money, thinking,
It's cold in Sweden, right?
he asked, still looking at the money. Pretty fucking cold, John replied, nodding.
I'll get my coat.
He went to get his coat. After half an hour, he had a suitcase packed and coat on. He gave his keys to John, then walked to the door. He realized that Mojo had disappeared, but didn't give it too much thought. He waved slightly, then turned around. Oh shit, before you go. John grabbed a piece of paper and a pen and scribbled something down for a minute or so. He handed it to Vincent. This is where you need to go. Vincent studied the note. It had a cruelly drawn map with a few labels, two being Kebab Shop and Systembolaget. There was a mass of crudely drawn trees in the north of the map, with an X marked in the middle with a big Go Here label written in bold. The top of the note read, should I be saying this in proper Swedish?
I think.
All right, Södertälje.
Thanks.
Vincent said. He took his hand in John's and gave it a firm shake.
Thank you for everything, my friend.
They extended the handshake into a hug. Au revoir, you cuck, said the man with the laptop. Vincent just narrowed his eyes at him, then gave John one last look before leaving the house. He took a direct bus to Södertälje, which took 3 days. He didn't like the way his flesh had started to fuse with his bus seat, but he figured it was better than dying in an airplane. Halfway through the trip, he saw someone wearing a Street Fighter V hat, walking alongside the motorway, holding a screwdriver. The person looked familiar. He had prepared a playlist for Södertälje, which included In My G4 Over the Sea by Neutral Bling Hotel, amongst many other tasteful albums. Is the Discord connected, by the way? Let's talk if it disconnected.
Looks connected to me.
Yeah, alright, it's good. Go on. Vincent finally arrived. He walked down a busy street in the center of the city. He was starving. He took John's map out of his pocket and squinted at it. It looked like he was a block away from the kebab shop and the booze shop. Turning a corner, he saw the place. There was a "Do Not Serve" poster stuck to the front of the window with John's face on it. Vincent entered the stomach. Wait, shit, I messed it up. Entered the shop, stomach aching. The man behind the counter looked at him. Kebab, please.
No, that's me.
Oh,
Sorry. Kebab, please.
Vincent didn't speak Swedish. Yes, sure. You French? The kebab man began to prepare Vincent's kebab.
Yes.
Vincent wondered what that meant to the kebab man. You know that guy? The kebab man pointed at the "Do Not Serve" poster of John with a knife.
No.
Vincent replied. So indecisive. I asked him what sauce he wants. He no decide. The kebab man jeered. Vincent laughed uncomfortably. The kebab man brought the kebab to the counter and looked into his eyes dead seriously. Chili, wait. Chili or garlic sauce? He asked. Vincent thought about this. He scratched his chin. There was a period of silence.
Both.
Vincent said boldly, meeting his challenge. Get the fuck out of my shop, the kebab man said, giving him the kebab with no sauce. Vincent left the shop. He crossed the street and bought a 6-pack of shit beer. He also obtained large amounts of snus. Checking the map, he had headed towards the big X marked in the forest. On the way, he saw someone on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
It was Druby. He was walking around in panic, alternating between tapping messages on his phone and holding it up to his ear. Vincent tried to cross the road, but lost sight of him as traffic came between them. He decided to spur on to the mystery man in the forest. Eventually, he found the forest that looked like the one on the map. John was very good at drawing forests. Vincent entered it, sipping his beer. He walked for half an hour, had finished his kebab. He kept walking, looking for anything resembling a building. 2 hours later, he started to grow anxious. He saw a dense forest with no end from every angle. He made out a vague figure in the distance. He focused. It was Druby. Vincent wondered how anybody could manage to get so lost and decided to confront him. Druby turned around and walked away, not aware to Vincent's presence. Vincent shouted out, but he was too far away. Druby ran away out of his sight. Vincent swore and chased after him. He ran until he almost threw up. Vincent fell over, out of breath. He lay on his back, looking up at the tall trees. He breathed heavily for a few minutes. Almost dark now, he sat up and opened another beer.
Fuck.
Vincent said after a long sip. It started to rain. Raindrops fell through the trees onto him. Vincent put up his hood, but he knew it wasn't waterproof. He got up and started walking again. The rain got harder over time, soaking him through. Eventually, he started shivering. and an hour later he collapsed. For a while he lay there unconscious, rain bouncing off his face. The moon shone brilliantly above, and in an instant a torrent of black spilled into thin air, whirling and spilling down to the ground, forming a silhouette of a man. It stood over Vincent, deadly still. There was a shine on its face, a reflection of moonlight through what would seem to be glasses. Droplets of rain danced around the figure, as if repelled by it. It knelt down, enshrouding Vincent completely. The figure picked him up effortlessly, then disappeared, leaving only a wisp of darkness. Chapter 2. The Count. Is this mic in a good place? What?
Food is ready. Apparently, food is ready. That's the thing Dobby wanted to say in the middle of the thing.
You got more food?
Yeah.
What kind of food?
Sure. I mean,
Get me some food.
that's
Alright, let's continue. While they get some food.
Mhm.
Heavy rain hit the roof of the castle. Lightning struck every so often. The trees waved in the wind, their branches obscuring the view of the night sky into a spiderweb of stars. Drops of rain crashed into the gutters, flowing down into the deep moat. From the outside, the building was 4 stories high, with most unlit windows scattered around all sides. One window shone with an orange glow. The room was small but not cramped. A fireplace flickered, spitting out small cinders that disintegrated into the air. Adjacent to the fireplace was a sizable bed where Vincent lay sleeping. Many antique-looking blankets were piled on top of him. What are you doing? He was turning in his sleep and had been sweating violently. A pale hand holding a cloth came down slowly and gently patted away some of the sweat. Vincent stopped turning and laid still. On a small bedside table was a Microsoft Surface Pro 4. I don't have a Surface 3, you know. What are you saying, Derby? Yeah. And Surface Pro seems alright. He woke the next morning. As his eyes focused, he looked around at the unfamiliar room. He began to panic. As he got out of the bed, the cold air stung to his body. The castle had no modern heating. Vincent then realized he was wearing clothes that weren't his. Old-looking pajamas. It was a dressing gown draped, hung on the door. What are you doing? What's that noise? I guess someone nodded. Oh shit! Be careful, man. Be careful. Be careful with that. Where was I? Oh yeah, there was a dressing gown draped hung on the door, which Vincent took and put on. Walking as quietly as he could, he left the room, walking into a long corridor. There's a window to his left showing the forest. It was still raining. He didn't see or hear anyone else.
Wait.
What?
Ruby, did you join?
A chill went down his spine, or up. Carefully, he started to creep along the corridor. There was a long Turkish carpet laid looking foyer. Wait, I skipped a line. Turkish carpet laid down, which cushioned his feet. He eventually found an opening, a wide staircase down to a large-looking foyer. He saw a grandiose door, twice the size of him. Peered around, scouting for any other person, but he still didn't hear anything. The entire place gave him the shivers. Desperately, he made a start for the door. Rushing down the marble stairs, his feet made patting noises which turned to loud cracks as he ran across the floor, every bound echoing throughout the large room. Vincent reached large door. As his hand touched the doorknob, he felt a hand touch his shoulder. He immediately turned around and reeled backwards, breaking the hand's grasp. Vincent fell to the ground, back against the door. A man, slightly shorter than him, dressed in black, with a large collar and a long cape stared at him. His hair looked blonde to Vincent, but it was actually brown. He wore glasses which shielded his blue eyes. Greetings, the man said. I am Count Elert. The man bowed courteously. Courteously? Cape draped around his right arm. It was red on the inside. But you may refer to me as Antoine. The meaning of the gesture was lost as Vincent was sitting on the floor. Still staring at the man, Vincent said nothing, too frightened to reply. The man continued. It's raining. I suggest you leave when it stops, which will be tomorrow morning. Your clothes also need to dry. Your suitcase is also here. They looked at each other briefly. Antoine turned, leaving up the stairs and through the corridor towards the room Vincent was previously in. Vincent sat there for a few minutes, letting his heart rate normalize. He didn't think the man meant him harm. After all, he had been saved from possible hypothermia, stripped, clothed, and bedded. It seemed like a kind gesture. And wow, what a place this guy lived in. The more Vincent thought about it, the more he wanted to thank the other man. He got up, surveying the large room. There were multiple doors on the ground level. He walked up the stairs, turning right back to the room with the bed, slowly. Peered around the corner of the doorway. Antoine was relighting the fireplace. Vincent decided not to confront him immediately, instead looking to another room at the end of the corridor, partially visible from where he stood. He walked to it. It was a small study with a wooden desk, chair, and bookshelf. Something caught Vincent's eye. It looked like it was made of glass, and it had some kind of inscription on it. He picked it off the shelf and squinted at it. Revolution 2016 Skullgirls Grand Champion. Vincent's squint turned into a look of surprise. He covered his mouth, preventing a gasp from escaping his mouth. He had found him. The man who beat McPeanuts. Not only did Vincent want to thank the man, but he now wanted to ask him to be his teacher. Putting the trophy back on the shelf, he noticed a book. It was titled Squiggly Bullshit. He took it off the shelf, blew the dust off it, and opened it. The contents page showed that the book had around 600 pages of information. He flicked to a random page. There were sketches of boxes on graphed paper with annotations. Looking harder, he could see these were the collision boxes of Squiggly. The sketches formed a sequence of interactions between two boxes in what seemed to be the corner of the stage, in which the mark point of the box went slightly past the other one, indicated by a large red circle. The last box had a note saying, "Dive kick cross up, bullshit." Vincent didn't know whether to be impressed or disgusted. He closed the book and returned it to the shelf. He left the room, walking back to the bedroom. The man had relit the fire and was standing there looking at it.
You're that guy, right?
Vincent started nervously. The other man turned his head slightly, looking at him.
You beat the American. You the only European. I can't speak anymore.
Go
you
on,
beat the
man.
American, the only European who could do it.
Vincent looked down at the floor. Yes, Anton whispered softly.
How did you do it? I need to know. I'm going to play against him this winter. I've tried everything.
Vincent stopped. The other man was looking back into the fire with a slight frown on his face. The man felt like the fire inside himself had long since died out. He had overcome too many opponents, repeated the tired old resets, and spent too much time in training mode. The man spoke. I studied, played, and adapted. He kept looking into the fire. His frown deepened slightly.
Can you teach me?
Vincent asked, as genuinely as he could. There was a pause. I don't want to discuss this anymore, the man replied, turning to leave the room. He brushed slightly against Vincent on his way out.
But you're my only hope. I came all this way just to find you, and you're telling me it was for nothing?
Vincent pleaded. The man stopped, hesitant. I'm sorry, but I don't think I can help you, the man said coldly. He left his study, closing the door carefully behind him.
So good.
Vincent lingered where he stood a little longer, clutched his chest, a feeling of dread overcoming him. What could he do to persuade him? He decided to consult his friends back in Limoges, using Steam on the man's Surface Pro. He messaged everyone back at the flat. Mojo suggested he should seduce the man. Dragonis called him a cuck again. John said he would look into some possible avenues of persuasion through research. Back in Limoges, John started trawling the deep web behind 7 proxies for information on the dark figure who won Revolution 2016. He found some forum posts discussing him. He was described to have quite a strange aura about him, and another post mentioned he liked blood. The same post also warned not to confront the man. John weighed up the risk-reward of endangering Vincent's life for the promise of getting better at a video game, eyes narrowing. Within 5 seconds, he messaged Vincent. Vincent saw it pop up on the screen. Hey Vince, you should offer the guy your blood. Don't know why. From John. Kisses. Vincent stared at the word blood. Eyebrows raised. He went to type his thanks, but before he could, a shiver went down his spine. I'm sorry, I'll have to ask you not to touch that. A voice came from behind him. Vincent exited Steam as fast as he could and turned around, face pale. They stared at each other once again.
Please, could you?
Vincent started. No. Anton raised his hand. I made us some food. Please drop this topic immediately. He motioned Vincent to follow. Vincent decided to be quiet and follow. They sat opposite each other at a long wooden table. Vincent was offered water but declined, instead requesting rum. He figured he might as well get absolutely smashed if the man wasn't going to accept him after coming all this way. Antoine returned with an unopened bottle of rum, filling a glass half full. The water in Citatelia is quite excellent, you know. You should try it sometime, he said, passing the glass to Vincent. He sat down. Vincent's dinner consisted of fried eggs on toast with scrambled eggs and boiled eggs. He drank some rum. They started to eat. Vincent kept finishing his glass and requesting more, going through the entire bottle quickly. He found it strange that the other man would part with his own alcohol so easily. He swallowed another mouthful of eggs. He felt the rum's fizzy, fuzzy glow overtake his body. Then he remembered John's message. Give this man his blood? He didn't know what to think. Instead, he requested more alcohol.
Do you have any wine?
Vincent asked. Of course, just a moment. Antoine left the table and the room gracefully, returned with an unopened bottle of red wine. He filled a wine glass with a modest amount and passed the glass to Vincent, setting the bottle on the table. Vincent immediately finished it in one gulp and began to fill his glass again. Antoine sipped some water and looked at the other man. He didn't understand why people drank alcohol at all. The two continued to eat. The storm continued to beat at the windows with a hail of rain. The wind screeched, dampened by the castle walls.
I'll give you my blood.
Vincent said bluntly. Antoine stopped for a moment, eyes widened, fork raised to his mouth. He sat his fork down. Why would I want your blood? Antoine said smoothly.
No reason. Just train me and my blood is yours.
Vincent shrugged. He was out of ideas and needed the man's help. He took a long drink of wine. I hope you have some needles.
I hope you have some needles.
Antoine blushed, then laughed uncomfortably. There'll be no need for needles, after all. He laughed again, lightly.
What?
Vincent asked. Antoine shook himself slightly, regaining composure. Nothing. I don't want your blood, thank you. Antoine resumed eating.
That's a shame.
Vincent laughed, drinking again. He smacked his lips.
This is some good stuff.
He smirked, looking at Antoine. Do you only drink red?
Oh, wait,
Is that
is
it?
that me? Oh yeah. Do you only drink red?
I don't drink alcohol, but thank you. Antoine replied politely. Vincent finished his glass, splashing a little wine onto the pajamas that weren't his. Oh my, that won't do, Antoine said, getting up. He had Vincent take off the pajama shirt, leaving his torso naked. Antoine left the room with the item of clothing briskly. Vincent decided to finish the wine, drinking straight from the bottle. He didn't care anymore. Antoine was running water from a tap into a sink, letting the garments soak. Vincent finished the wine, wiping his mouth with his arm. Then Antoine returned to the room. I'm sorry, but all the clothes that fit are back at the room you were sleeping in, he said. I'll take you back to your room here. He took the man's arm, dragging him up slightly. Vincent wasn't sober enough to decline. Antoine stood him up and let him out of the room, up the large staircase. Vincent grasped onto the other man for support. Almost at the top of the stairs, Antoine felt Vincent's grip weaken, letting go and falling to the floor. In a flash, Antoine lunged and caught him an inch from the floor. The other man had passed out. Antoine shook his head, carrying to the room bridal style. He laid the man back into bed, tucking the sheets in around him. Looking at his face, he ran his fingers through the black hair, pushing it back. He thought it could use some grooming. Vincent's neck lay exposed, catching Antoine's gaze. He hadn't fed in a while. All that polite talk and formality beforehand betrayed his natural urge for blood. Standing, he simply stared at the other man's neck, vulnerable. A few moments after, the vampire bared his fangs and stooped over Vincent, mouth close to the side of his neck. He bit softly, eyes closing. Vincent lay still, unaware of his man juices coursing into Antoine's mouth. After a minute, the mouth pulled away, sucking the remaining drops of blood from the 2 bite marks. He took a handkerchief from his pocket and patted his mouth carefully. He looked at the unconscious man once more, felt an unexpected pang of guilt. He remembered the proposition the man made during dinner. Turning away, he whisked his cape around him and disappeared. In another room, he appeared, sitting in a large chair with his head rested against one hand, legs crossed. Snapping his fingers, a fireplace burst into flames. Light spilled into the room, casting large shadows on the walls. Orange flames illuminated the vampire's face. His eyes were distant, unfocused. Why had he saved the man at all? He had detected a presence in the forest much earlier, but shrugged it off as nothing of interest. But the presence lingered far longer than any other he had sensed before. He had felt it stop and grow weak. Then he investigated. He thought about the man's request. The idea of taking on an apprentice held an allure of challenge which drew him in. He was mostly filling the spare time he had with inconsequential internet browsing. It also gave him an excuse to cease being the best player in Europe, leave exclusion, and live a more regular life. Regular?
I guess.
Yeah, sorry. The vampire brooded long after the fire died. He sat in the shadows, glasses reflecting dim light from the windows. The storm outside was beginning to stop. Clouds were parting. Vincent woke up at 9 a.m. He found that his suitcase had been left in his room with his once wet clothes now dried and neatly folded on top, including his underwear. Vincent got dressed and prepared to leave, feeling quite hollow. As he walked down the stairs, he caught the smell of food. Walking to the dining room, he noticed there were knives and forks set for two. Walking through the other door, he saw Antoine opening a fridge, wearing a white cloth apron. The fridge was full of eggs.
What are you doing?
Vincent asked, ruffling his hair. I thought about your preposition last night, Antoine replied, taking a box of eggs out of the fridge. I've changed my mind. I will teach you, if you allow me to take your blood. That will be enough. Vincent didn't know how to react. He was too hungover. He walked up to Anton and embraced him from behind, resting his head on the man's shoulders. Antoine pushed him away with one arm slowly. Please don't touch me, he said flatly.
Okay, no problem.
Vincent pulled away and walked out the room. A second after, he emerged in the doorway. He asked, Yes, but there isn't any milk. Is that all right? Antoine replied.
C'est ton droit à tout. Bon, merci.
Vincent said. He sat down at the table. Antoine didn't understand the French. He also didn't understand why he hadn't evaded the man's hug. He could have easily dodged or even disappeared, but he hadn't. The thought that doing such a thing would make him seem suspicious. At least, that is what he told himself. Chapter 3: The Apprentice. Vincent's training started with a complete makeover. He was dressed in formal clothes, a white shirt, a fancy black waistcoat, black trousers, and some black pointy shoes. Vincent added his own touches, turning his shirt collar up and rolling up his sleeves. Antoine gave Vincent a haircut and a shave. His hair was slicked back. He looked at himself in the mirror. He thought he looked quite good. For the first week, Antoine locked himself away in his study. He revised his notes and rewatched his Revo 2016 matches. He tuned into McPeanut's stream, focusing intently on how he played, taking notes to replicate the team and style that McPeanuts employed. Vincent was instructed to mentally prepare through alternating between meditation and academic reading. Umahara's The Will to Keep Winning, Serlin's Playing to Win, and the Big Band Guide by Alex were a select few of many sources that Vincent got through a week. Antoine explained that a foundation of Zen and knowledge would be necessary for a fluid transition into practice and progression. Vincent was so exhausted after every day that he fell into a deep sleep fast, unknowing that Antoine would appear some time later out of thin air and proceed to suck his blood. Antoine had told him that he would take Vincent's blood when he needed it, obfuscating the agreement to his own benefit. At the end of the week, Antoine allowed Vincent a day's rest. He spent that time contacting the guys back in Limoges. Again. John congratulated him and asked how much blood he had lost since starting. Vincent replied that he hadn't gave any away yet. John replied, saying that it sounded suspicious. Mojo asked if they had had sex yet. Vincent did not reply. Dragonus did not call him a cock this time, instead offering some cerebella tips, which Vincent noted down. He spent the rest of the day exploring the castle, discovering old unused rooms. He traversed the castle stairs to the attic and found doors leading down into the wine cellar, which he made a good job of exploring indeed. The following period of training consisted of a vigorous schedule of 2 first-to-50 sets per day for morning and evening. Vincent was made to take notes on each set in the form of a diary. At first, he lost all the sets, taking 1 or 2 games over Antoine. Shh! His attitude also needed training. At times, he would curse and shout as he played, while Antoine was silent. At night, Vincent would make angry scribbles in his diary on a peacock was bullshit. Yet, he tried harder and inched closer with every passing day. Antoine could see that. The two ate together every day. Doing so, Vincent always tried to initiate conversation, pressing various topics, only changing them when he didn't get a good response. After a couple of weeks, he had struck a chord with the topic of music. Antoine owned up to being a musician, having played the piano and violin. They discussed the types of music they liked and shared recommendations. After a month, Vincent was winning a third of the games. His projectile dodging skills were finding ever more. Blisters had developed on his left hand from deflecting too many projectiles, repeating the same motion over and over. Antoine took Vincent's trembling hand in his and bandaged it, as well as allowing him time to heal. During this short period of downtime, in a large room, Antoine played the piano for Vincent. A few days later, training resumed. As another month passed, autumn turned to winter. Snow fell upon the castle, turning the imposing towers and gargoyles into white, unthreatening blobs. In spare time, Vincent went for walks in the forest. He liked the snow and how it crunched under his feet. He made a snow big band, then destroyed it with multiple kicks. The usually towards the end of the set. Vincent was now winning half of his games. He had learned that once he hit Peacock, he could abuse her weak reversals with Philia's excellent mix-up game. How could he have been so stupid? It had seemed like a 10-0 matchup, but now he figured it to be even. He had perfected the art of well-timed reversals. All of his Gregors hit with no exceptions. His cerebellum play consisted of doing nothing in neutral other than deflect. And when it hit, he could convert from anywhere on the screen perfectly. His demeanor while playing had improved, and he would even nod or compliment Antoine after the games that he had lost. His notes now consisted of experimental techniques, observations of Antoine's play, patterns, behavior, and overall style. He began to tire of playing. He had played at least 5,800 games now. He just wanted to go play at Revo. Luckily for him, it was only a week away. During the final days of training, he played in a trance state, not once stopping to take a sip of coffee like he usually did. He finished the entire cup cold at the end of the set, winning 50-33. They traveled to London on the Friday by plane. Antoine had to drag Vincent on it, while reassuring him that they would not die, as statistics indicate that planes are safest forms of transport. Vincent gripped his seat the entire flight and held on to Antoine during takeoff and touchdown. He met John and Mojo Dragonos in the center of the city. They all met Antoine, who would introduce himself formally underneath a large black parasol. Vincent asked why he held it up at all times, but he didn't receive a clear answer. Antoine wondered how anyone could be so naive, too used to the clothes. Vincent realized he was still dressed in formal attire. Only it was too late. John and Dragonos both stifled laughs upon witnessing it. At least Mojo thought he looked stylish. They tried to find a bar, but ended up in a restaurant. They left an hour later, then found a bar, only for it to close at midnight. They stayed at a sick-as-hell Airbnb flat, which was inside the venue. Pools and top 8 were being held the day after. They slept well because the flat was sick as hell, as previously stated. Vincent rose early, meditating while everyone else was still asleep. He had taken to meditation. It cleared his mind well. Antoine rose shortly after he had started, but instead used the extra time to take an hour-long shower. Pools went quite roughly for Vincent. He was almost knocked into losers by some scrub playing Beowulf plus big band. Antoine watched from a distance, parasol casting a strange darkness around him in the otherwise well-lit room. Top 8 was a good showing of skill, with a lot of 2-3s and a lot of close matches. Anton was knocked into losers bracket by Ismo, though, who he beat in losers finals. Finally, came to face McPeanuts in grand finals, but was in losers side. Clutched the bracket reset with a happy birthday Cerebella level 3. His brow was lined with sweat. They went to game 5 again. Vincent hit 5 reversal Gregors in that game, then built another bar and hit another. He deflected item drops and prediction. He won by the skin of his teeth, barely dodging a beat extend call at low HP, and then hitting both Peacock and Big Band to seal the win. When it happened, he jumped out of his chair screaming. All of his friends came to congratulate him by jumping onto him. Then he finally got up and went to shake McPeanut's hand. Only, it wasn't McPeanut's. The eyes were glowing bright like car headlights. Clothes tore off, leaving a figure of shining white sitting on the chair. I think this is you. Oh wait, no, because the Peanuts was actually...
Yeah,
What?
I think this
Is this me?
Yeah.
First team, no. You.
The words... Wait,
Peanuts? What?
oh yeah, I guess this is Peanuts. Alright. First him, now you? The words shook the room, sending chairs and people flying.
Peanuts?
I don't know. My impression is that it's me who like to be Peanuts.
Okay, Alex says it's Peanuts.
Alright, it's Peanuts. The words shook the room, sending chairs and people flying. Suddenly the world began to spin, the room shrinking in an instant. Vincent's vision became a blur. The room then suddenly exploded into a panorama of stars and planets, with a shining entity at its central point. The room was no longer a room. The dark plane which Vincent laid on extended further than the eye could see, the horizon blurring into a starry expanse of stars and shapes which would conventionally be called the sky. Struck with a sense of vertigo, Vincent curled up into a ball, hands clutching his head. A white glowing figure floating above, exuding a great force that reverberated through Vincent's body, causing him to shake violently. The white figure floated down to Vincent, who was struggling to get up. Looking upwards, he saw the white figure raise an arm, then bring it downwards fast. He closed his eye, clutched his head, and screamed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he felt a spray of warm liquid hit him. He opened his eyes. The dark figure stood over him, a glowing white arm protruding from his chest, bloodied. Vincent was horrified. What the hell is happening? Vincent. He heard Antoine speak. The dark figure was him. Antoine fell, sliding off the white figure's arm, and began bleeding all over. Vincent turning him red. His face was mellow, perhaps delirious due to the blood loss. He kissed Vincent with a mouthful of blood. Vincent felt it energize his body, unlike any other feeling he had ever experienced. His clothes were soaked with red. They parted, Antoine falling to Vincent's side. Now you should have my powers too, although that doesn't mean you're able to sustain high amounts of damage. I only died because it was necessary to save you, Antoine explained, in a clear and easy to understand manner. He then died.
What's powers? What the fuck?
Vincent explained. Vampire powers. I'm a vampire, you fucking idiot. Antoine revived temporarily. He then died again. For some odd reason that could only be chalked to the writer's lazy writing and the need for an elaborate situation, the white figure had not attacked Vincent again. Indeed, it was almost as if the figure had harbored regret to the accidental killing of one protecting another. However, Vincent, now completely red with blood, levitated upwards from the ground into a standing position, punched the white figure in the chest, sending it flying upwards into space, then jumped up speeding towards it, delivering a flying kick that made the figure explode so violently that the entire universe went white.
Take that, you piece of fuck!
Vincent said vindictively. Chapter 4. The End. Vincent awoke in his flat, surrounded by cans of cheap beer. He found a receipt for 300 cans of Carling from Tesco in his pocket. Other people in the room were sleeping soundly, one using a mass of cans as an uncomfortable but not completely useless bed. Vincent figured he had dreamt the entire events in space and went to find Anton. Only he couldn't find the vampire. After Revo, Vincent went on to win 6 tournaments throughout late 2017 and 2018, being sponsored on the 5th win by a kebab restaurant chain. On the 6th win, he snapped and ran away to Bertrand's castle, which he took over and made his own somehow. He stayed there to let his mind rest. During this period of respite, he realized he did have vampire powers and could really go for a nice, cool glass of blood.
Oh my god.
Months later, he noticed a presence come toward the castle. He shrugged it off as a wandering person, but the presence persisted long after, and it had begun to storm outside. His curiosity piqued, and he whisked himself through the forest as a dark cloud and found the man pass out in the forest. It was Nephros. Is that the final line? I should have done it more dramatically.
Oh my god.
I should have said, like, it was Nephros.
Oh my god. That was a terrible ride.
I don't
you
think
do it,
I'll
so
ever
think of-
experience a story better than that.
Yeah, I'm gonna upload this to YouTube now. Let's
Yeah. Let's
Yay.
go.
The screen is just like a picture of a trap. Is that okay? Or do we want
Yes,
something
hello,
else?
it's me, Ruby.
Hi,
use the
Ruby.
picture
You wanna know
of
what I
fucking
expected
top
from
of
Use the picture from the top.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
expected
God.
him to mention me still being lost in the forest when Vincent went to Revo. That's how he spelled that.
Oh, you were meant to be the next. But then ACH just got in the way.
Like I expected me to like be mentioned in the end as still being lost.
Because you probably are being lost.
Yeah,
The
I
ending.
guess.
Okay, Alex needs to make a second edition where it's like Nephros is found.
Can we
passed
give
out,
him some time though?
and Drewby is dead. Like next to the
Drewby's
body.
dead body.
Drew is just dead. They don't flow.
You can only be lost for so
If
long.
Alex wants a sequel, he will make a sequel.
Oh god, this is 54 fucking minutes long. How long is this gonna take to upload?